Guys, it's Sarah, and today I am going to start a series. I'm going to start a new series on this channel. This stemmed from a lot of your suggestions when I posted about being in a slump and I needed some ideas. This one came up quite a bit actually, and I was like, oh, people really like these. Okay, perfect. And then it started turning in my head and I was like, I could really make this a thing. I'm going to start doing author spotlights. And the reason I really want to do this is because reading some authors to zero, which means reading everything this author has written, published, all that good stuff, is a goal of mine. I am kind of pinpointing some of my favorite authors and saying, okay, I want to read everything that they have written. And I'm getting to a point now where I'm getting close on a lot of them. And this year, one of my goals is to read quite a few of them. And I have like a list of authors I'm ready to work on. I'm already working on some of them. I've already finished some of them because some of them I only had one more to read. And so I've been reading those. So I thought I could definitely make this a thing. And I will also be able to use this as an opportunity to get that push to make sure I'm reading those authors and make sure I'm picking them up regularly so that I can get to the point where I can do the author spotlight. And I will wait until I have their catalog read before I talk about them. So I will talk about the author themselves. I'll talk about what they have published, what order, how they're different, how they're similar, what were my favorites, that type of thing. So this will be the first one, and we are going to talk about Alex Michaelides. Now, I have been pronouncing his name wrong. I was saying Alex Michaelides, but I actually went to a virtual event with him that I had the opportunity to go through my job at Barnes & Noble. He did like a special virtual event for booksellers, and it's Michaelides. So now I know. Thank you. And let me tell you, he was the nicest of the nice. Okay, number one, he's incredibly handsome. I think we can acknowledge that. Number two, he is British. So he's got the accent. Number three, he's Greek. You guys, I can't. He was so nice and kind and answered everybody's questions and seeing him interact with the moderators before we even got started on the event, he was just so nice to everybody. And he's like, I remember you and blah, 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 and how's your family and blah, blah, blah. Like, he's a gem. He's a gem. Okay. He is a thriller writer, mystery thriller writer. And to date, he has 3 published books. The first one is The Silent Patient. The second one is The Maidens. And the third one that just came out in January is The Fury. He is published by Celadon Books, and I loved all of them. These were all 5 stars for me. Okay, so let's start off with The Silent Patient. This is by far his most popular book. This book still sells really, really well in our store. People come in looking for it all the time, even though it was his first one. This one was published in 2019, and it's still so incredibly popular. It kind of baffles my mind a little bit. And this is one that I recommend all the time. If people are looking for a really good thriller and they're not really knowing what to look for, if they have not read this, I always recommend it. This one follows a psychologist. And we are following a case where a woman kills her husband and then goes mute. She kills him, it happens, and then she's silent. There's not enough evidence to pinpoint her specifically because she won't talk. And so instead of arresting her, they put her in a psychiatric ward. And then a psychologist comes in and he knows the case really well. He is determined to be the one to get her to break her silence. He's convinced that it's going to be him. He's going to do this. He's going to get her to talk. He's fascinated by her. He wants to know all the things. And you kind of go from there. And the way that this was written is fantastic. I don't want to say too much about it though, because there's a lot of surprises and I feel like you need to be surprised. So I'm not going to tell you like, this had an amazing twist on this page and blah, 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 because that really, really ruins it. There's surprises throughout this book. So there's not just like one big thing. It's like, there's multiple things. And just when I read this, I went, oh my gosh, I need to read everything by this author. And, this was his debut, so I didn't have anything at the time. So when he came out with more stuff, I was so excited. And he just immediately became, a favorite because this is one of the best thriller books I've ever read, definitely. And I loved it. And then we'll move on to The Maidens. This was his second release. This one was released in 2021, so a couple years later. And this one takes place at a college. So this is kind of like a dark academia as well as being a thriller, which that's kind of what dark academia is. But it's set at Cambridge. Yep, Cambridge. Look at me. I was right. It's set at Cambridge, and it follows a young girl who is killed, and then a woman who is very, like, one of the counselors there is very interested in what happened to her, even though she's not like a detective or anything. She's very interested in what happened to her and who she was choosing to surround herself with. We're talking like a little bit of is this a cult action type thing? And everything's gray. You're not really sure like who's okay and who's not. And you're kind of trying to figure that out as the characters are trying to figure that out as well. You're really kind of following. It's not like something has happened or you're just waiting for them to figure it out. You're trying to figure it out with them. And I really like the way that was written that way. And you're following also this girl's best friend and like her grieving and her trying to figure things out as well. So you're kind of like following everybody, trying to figure out what in the world happened to this poor girl. It was great. I loved it. I'm a little bit in the minority on that, though. A lot of people don't like this one because it was very different from The Silent Patient. It had a different feel. So I'll give it that. But I loved it. I personally had a really, really great time reading this. I'm definitely, like I said, in the minority on that, but that's okay. But I thought it was great. And then we get to his most recent release, which is The Fury, which just came out in 2024. So it took a little bit longer for this one to come out. And this one is following a group of friends who go on a vacation trip to the Greek islands, to one of their houses that they own there. And so this is like a secluded mystery because someone on the island dies, but there's not that many people there who could have done it because it's like them. So you're following that as well. Now, the way that this was written to me was brilliant because the narrator is telling you the story after the fact, and it's literally written like the words are said, sit down, have a drink, let me tell you what happened type thing. And throughout the story, you're getting things like, it could have gone this way, but that's not what happened. Or this should have happened, but it didn't happen that way. And that was dumb, like just all these things. And so sometimes you're reading it and you're like, is this really happening? And then you're like, oh no, that wasn't really what happened. What really happened? And, so it definitely kept you guessing in that way, which I thought was genius. And then it literally felt like I was sitting down with a cocktail and getting told a really, really juicy story by the narrator. And I loved that. I thought it was great. So loved it. Another 5-star for me, for him. And yeah, so this one just came out. Okay, so these are the 3 that he has written. I will read anything this man writes. I know he is writing his 4th right now. Yes, please. Okay, so what is the order that I preferred them? Now, these are all 5 stars for me. They're all 5-star ratings. If I'm going to rank them, I would say number 1 is The Silent Patient. Number 2 is The Fury. And number 3 is The Maidens. So while I did love this, I would put it in 3rd place. If I was comparing the 3, it would be that. Yeah, but I still loved all 3 of them, definitely. I just really, really like his writing. I like the way he sets his scenes. I like that he keeps you guessing. And I like that in every book, the way he keeps you guessing is different. I'll say that. He's not formulaic as far as that goes. He doesn't follow a formula and he does it in every single book. He switches it up every time and he writes it a little bit differently, or he'll write it in a different tone, or he'll write it in a different perspective. And yeah, so I just love it. I'm a huge fan of Alex Michaelides, and again, we'll read anything that he writes. So let me know down below if you have read any of these books. Let me know if you're interested in reading them now after hearing a little bit more about him and his writing. I would love to know your thoughts on all of that. And if you have read these, which one was your favorite? I want to know that too. And I hope you enjoyed this first installment of this author spotlight. And I will have another one because I do have a couple authors I've already read to zero this year. So I'm going to focus on those first. And then I may go back and do some backlist ones, of authors that I have read already to zero in the past. And then as I finish reading some authors this year, I will include those as well. So this will be kind of an ongoing thing. And I'm really excited about it. So thank you guys for your suggestion for doing something like this. And I will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.